I'm consumer investigator Dale Cardwell. In today's world, too many bad outcomes are simply allowed to exist. This podcast is all about solving unsolvable problems, exposing bad guys who think they'll get away, and getting positive results for every deserving consumer. This is why Trust Dale investigates.
You know, I want other people to know and be wary of many things.
Rebecca Elrick had a really big problem. She hired a tree man to do landscaping on her property, and she thought she had good reason. The tree person had done $6,000 worth of tree removal on her property, and he had done a good job. Problem number one, he's not a landscaper. However, he says, I got a guy. I can find you a landscaper. I'll act as the general contractor on this job. Can you tell us what happened to it?
Yeah, I had a subcontractor that came out and took the money, went and brought all the equipment over.
Rebecca made her second mistake. She wrote a check in advance for the landscaping, $3,000.
The $3,000 was given for the supplies.
Did he do any of this?
I did not see any of the supplies, and no work was done.
So this is where it goes south. The tree person cashed the $3,000 check and then disappeared. This happened in January of 2016. More than a year later, Rebecca contacts Trust Dale with an unsolvable problem. The contractor can't be found, and he has Rebecca's $3,000, and after some correspondence claiming that he was on the job trying to find the landscaper who had made off with Rebecca's money, he no longer is reachable. Yeah, that's not good. So now we've established that the tree service was misrepresenting the truth, not only to Rebecca, but to Trust Dale. So we generally ramp it up at that point and we get a little bit more aggressive because first we want to solve a problem. We want to assume that everyone's acting in good faith and there can be mistakes along the way. We're now learning that the tree service is not acting in good faith. So what we advised Rebecca to do was to stop payment on the check. And she told us that she had attempted to do that, but because this was a cash advance check on a credit card, the rules protecting the consumer are not as strong as if it had been a personal check. Here's what Rebecca had to say about that.
I feel like I was ripped off twice.
Rebecca recognizes now that she should have never paid in advance for the job, and she shouldn't have used a cash advance check from her credit card company. And so you tried to do a chargeback, which was really smart, but what did the bank tell you?
They went through the process of the dispute, although I'm not sure why they bothered, because in the end they just said I did not have the same rights to dispute because it was a check rather than a purchase with a card.
That's frustrating, isn't it?
I know.
That's when you get to the point where you're saying, who in the world can help me? Why can't I get justice? When Trust Dale Investigates returns. Mr. Presser?
Yeah.
Consumer Investigator Dale Cardwell, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great. We're here to find out what happened to Rebecca Elrick's $3,000.
Cars are so important to our lives. Don't take the chance of your vehicle breaking down. When it comes to oil changes and preventive maintenance, you can trust Haviland Express Lube. Haviland Express Lube achieves that goal by getting you in and out quicker than the competition and delivering the best value every time. Plus, you're double protected by the Trust Dale Make It Right guarantee. Service you need from the people you trust at Haviland Express Lube.
Welcome back to Trust Dale Investigates. Here's more of our story. Okay, so I'd like to invite you inside the investigative process. When does a reporter decide to set up and sting a target versus work through a telephone call, an email system to expect that the parties are going to act in good faith? It's generally when someone lies to you and you know that you've been lied to. So we set up a sting where we had our audio and we had our video cameras and we were ready for the tree service to pull up in our driveway to get out, in his opinion, thinking he was going to give us an estimate to bring down a tree. But in fact, we were there to confront the tree service about Rebecca Elrich's $3,000.
Mr. Presser?
Yeah.
Consumer Investigator Dale Cardwell, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. We're here to find out what happened to Rebecca Elrich's $3,000
Sure.
that she paid you for landscaping.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what happened
Yeah.
to
I
it?
had a subcontractor that came out and took the money, went and brought all the equipment over.
Yeah.
Never showed back up. Gave Rebecca all the contact information to get in touch with them, and couldn't get in touch with them.
You told our producer, Amy, that you were going to take care of this. This is the check that she wrote to
Right.
you. You cashed the check.
Correct. And
Okay.
gave him the money. He brought out all the equipment, started the work, never came back.
You're acting as the contractor on this job. You're responsible for that $3,000. What are you going to do about it?
I gave her all of the guy's contact information. He was directly in contact with her.
You're legally responsible for this. You cashed the check.
Correct.
It was written to you.
Right, and I have the receipt going to him on all of the materials and the emails that went back and forth.
Then why don't you assist Miss Elrich in filing charges against him?
I'm trying to find him. That's the problem. I've told her I wanted to help her from the get-go. I've got all of the emails going back and forth and all of the phone calls to try to get this guy who lives out in Villa Rica.
What's his name?
I have to look on my site. He did 2 other little projects for me, but I put the 2 together. I don't do landscaping. I took down Leland cypresses for her. I said, here's the guy. He came and actually sat down with information saying, how do you want this designed? Came out in the pouring down rain, left his machinery out there. He had all of the equipment brought out and material brought out to that site.
Okay, so before we show you how we solved Rebecca Elrich's problem, I'd like to give you some advice from a landscaping expert on how to go about finding the correct landscaper that you can have confidence will deliver your job professionally and to your satisfaction. Here is Kevin Poland of Oasis Landscaping.
I wouldn't recommend hiring someone that's not licensed and insured. There's a lot of risk involved with doing projects like this where people can be hurt. We use a lot of big equipment and damage can happen. And using someone like that, typically they're not insured, they're not licensed, so that puts a lot of liability back on the homeowner if something does go awry. It's very customary in our industry to pay a 50% deposit, and then once the job's completed, the customer's completely satisfied and everything's done, to then ask for the remaining 50%.
I would never advise anyone to put up more than half of the cost of the project. And if you're going to put up money on the front end, make absolutely certain that you're checking references aggressively. So Rebecca finds Trustdale. We set up the landscaper. And he acknowledges that he took the $3,000. He tells us that he then turned the $3,000 over to his subcontractor, the landscaper, who he claims lives near the Alabama state line, and he says this landscaper has not returned his calls.
But I've been trying to get in touch with this guy. I've told Rebecca I continue to try to get in touch with this guy.
You're
So-
not returning Rebecca's calls.
I tried to message her on Facebook. She said she didn't want to talk to me.
What we do differently from typical news services, a lot of news services will do Rebecca's story, but they show that Rebecca's been burned, and perhaps it provides a public service to keep others from being burned, but Rebecca's still burned. We want a successful resolution for our consumer.
If I've got to eat it, I'll eat it. It was a pass-through type of deal that I should have had them contract with each other. That was where I made the mistake.
We want a successful conclusion, so good luck, and we'll check back with you by Friday at 5.
You got it.
Okay?
Thank you.
So now that the tree service has acknowledged responsibility, here's what we did. We said we will not reveal your identity if you pay Rebecca back. And we're happy to say, as we sit here today, that several Saturdays ago, he made his first payment. At Trustdale, we're all about building a community of trust. Our podcast is one of the many ways we stay connected with you and keep you informed about the most important consumer issues. If you like our podcast, please like us on Facebook and share it with your friends. If you share this and other podcasts, you may be preventing other folks from being ripped off. Send your stories to Trustdale Investigates. Visit trustdale.com and tell us about it, or message me on Facebook.